today's video, I will be showing you how I make my homemade salsa and also for canning to use it during the winter. Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm so glad you joined me today. We are going to be making some salsa, so I hope you enjoy this video and hopefully you get some tips along the way as well. So we're just going to dive right on into starting with the tomatoes, of course. Now I got these locally, so these are farm-raised tomatoes and they're really good. We had a couple already, just fresh eating. They're super good. So I'm just going to go ahead and just dump them all in the sink, and we're going to start washing them and also cutting out all the bad spots and of course the top and the bottom where the stem is, just cutting out everything that we don't need in our salsa. And this does take a little bit of time, but just turn on a podcast or some music to listen to and it goes by pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and wash these while I'm cutting them, but I'm also going to give them a second wash after I'm done with this wash, just to make sure everything is clean and ready to go. Now, one thing I did want to mention at the beginning of this video, if you've never done any canning before, just please be careful. There's some things, you can burn yourself, cut yourself. Just be careful. And yeah, protect your skin at all times, because trust me, you can get burned. I have already, and yeah, just be careful. I'm going to keep saying that throughout the video because I do not want anyone to get hurt. Right, and then once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and get a big pot of water on the stove. This is for scalding the tomatoes, and then once it's nice and hot, it doesn't have to quite be boiling. This was plenty hot here, but anyways, we're going to drop in the tomatoes. Again, just be careful. This is hot water. You don't want to get burnt, so just keep your fingers and your skin out of the way as you just carefully drop the tomatoes in, and then we're going to keep them in this water just a couple minutes. It doesn't take long at all until the tomatoes are scalded, and you can tell once they're ready to come out. I'm just going to test one here and just make sure that skin comes off really easily, and then that kind of tells you when they're ready to come out. And some of the skin kind of is a little cracked and yeah, starting to come open. So yeah, it just only takes a couple minutes or so. It doesn't take long at all. So this process goes pretty fast. So we're just going to go ahead and take all those tomatoes out, and then we'll put some more tomatoes in. And then I'm going to put these scalded tomatoes into the sink. Now again, these are really hot, and sometimes they're too hot to peel right away. So you can leave them sit, for a couple minutes or so if you want to, just to let them cool off a little bit. And in the meantime, the second batch of tomatoes was ready to come out, so I'm going to get those out and then put another batch in. And then we're just going to go ahead and skin all the tomatoes, and this process is usually fairly easy. If they're scalded long enough, the skin will come off really easily. So next we're going to start chopping, and I have this chopper here. I'll try to link it in the description box below because I just really love using this for salsa. It makes a nice chunky salsa, so if that's the style of salsa you like, this works great for everything that you are chopping up. So we're going to start off here with the tomatoes and just get them all chopped up, and then once we have this little container full, we're just going to dump it into the little measuring cup over to the side, and that way we can measure out how many tomatoes we have. And then we're just going to keep chopping and keep dumping until we have the right measurement for our recipe. And by the way, speaking of the recipe, I will try to link the recipe in the description box below for you if you want to try it out. I did go ahead and just pre-cut all the tomatoes in half. This just helps it to slice a little easier and better without the juice squirting all over the place. It does make a mess either way, but yeah, I just kind of wipe as I go, kind of clean the countertop up here and there as I go, just to keep the mess down to a minimum. I did have a few extra tomatoes that I didn't need for my salsa, so I'm going to go ahead and put all the extra tomatoes in the Vitamix, and it was just the right amount to make a couple quarts of tomato juice. So I'm going to just blend it up really well, and yeah, you have some fresh tomato juice. You can use it, yeah, or can it. So there you have it. Alright, and then next we're going to start with the onions, doing it the same way, just chopping it up here in this chopper. Now I do think you can get a smaller square size chopper, like the insert here. So if you want to do your onions and peppers a little smaller, you can do that. But mine doesn't have the smaller one with it, so I'm just going to do the same size, and it works out fine in the end. And yes, I know I should have been wearing my apron all along. I got tomato juice all over my dress before I suddenly realized I could be wearing an apron, but oh well. I'm wearing an apron now, and Chloe also wanted to wear her little apron, which was really cute. And I forgot to film the peppers, but yeah, we're just going to do the same way. And yeah, I did do multiple, like the multicolored peppers. The reason being, the place where I got the peppers only had a couple green ones. It wasn't enough, so I had to go with a multicolor pepper, which usually I would just do the green. But anyways, I think it'll work out fine. So now we're just going to mix up all the ingredients that we have so far, and which is the tomatoes, the onions, and the peppers. And then after that is mixed up really well, we're going to go ahead and just mix in all the spices, so forth. Mix that up really well. And then last but not least, we're going to add in some cilantro. This just finishes up the salsa in my book. Now, if you don't really care for the cilantro taste, you can totally just leave this out. Totally optional, but we just like having that in our salsa. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up a couple bunches of the cilantro to put in as well. And I'm definitely not a professional chopper. Yeah, I'm sure some of you could do a much better job, but I'm just going to do my best here and just chop it up as best I can. And yeah, just put it in the salsa. Alright, and then at this point you can go ahead and taste it. Make sure you taste it with like a chip. Yeah, it does taste a little different if you just, taste it outright. But I'm going to go ahead and add some of this Mrs. Wage's salsa mix in. I like doing this. It just adds an extra zip to it, adds an extra flavor, makes it really good. So I'm going to go ahead, add one bag in, taste it and see what I think, and I did go ahead and add another bag in, but yeah, totally to your liking. If you like it just plain, that's totally fine, but I usually end up adding some of the Mrs. Wages salsa mix in. Alright, and now we are ready to fill our jars, and I'm going to go ahead and just fill them up, you know, to the neck. So now I'm just taking my finger over all the rims, making sure, you know, everything is good to go. This jar did have a chip on the rim here, as you see. So that one's definitely not going to seal. So we're going to keep that one back. Yeah, this is just checking, you know, to make sure there's no nicks or cracks or anything in that rim so that your lid will for sure seal. And then Jameson is helping me put all the lids on. And then we're also going to put on the rings, and I'm just putting on these nice and tight, yeah, just making sure they're good and snug. And now we are ready to can. I'm going to go ahead and put some pint jars into the cooker here, and then we're going to put it over on the stove, cover all the jars with water, and then we're going to let that cook. And here are here's the first batch already done. So yeah, basically we're just going to fill this tray up every time with jars, and then put it in the cooker. Make sure your jars are covered with water, and then once it's to a good rolling boil, we're going to time it for 10 minutes. And then once that 10 minutes is up, we're going to rest them on this towel for at least, you know, 12 to 24 hours, making sure everything is sealed properly. Alright, so that is it for canning the salsa. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you got some tips or maybe a new recipe to try. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.